I used to think birthdays didn't matter. That's what you tell yourself when no one remembers them, when the candles, the cake, and the hugs all belong to someone else. But this morning, as sunlight poured across my glass desk and the town's clock tower chimed 9, I realized I'd been lying to myself for years. Birthdays matter, especially the one that changes everything. My phone buzzed beside my coffee. Another email, another news outlet asking for an interview. Local woman brings national spotlight to Brookvale, the headline read. I smiled, tracing the rim of my mug with a manicured finger. They had no idea this whole town used to forget I even existed. Outside my penthouse window, banners fluttered in the October breeze. My charity gala was tonight. Half the town would be there, including my family. Funny how people remember you when the world does first. I adjusted my silk blouse, catching my reflection in the window. Composed, elegant, unreadable. The woman staring back wasn't the girl who used to cry into store-bought cupcakes alone. She was someone new, someone they built without realizing it. Then the buzz again. A text. Mom. Just one line. Can't wait to see you tonight, honey. So proud of you. I laughed softly. The kind of laugh that sounds warm, but isn't. Oh, they'd remember this birthday. Every last second of. I was 12 the first time they forgot. Mom said she got caught up at work. Dad was out of town, and my brothers swore they thought it was next week. I spent that night eating a melted cupcake from the grocery store, sitting on the back porch with the porch light flickering like it was embarrassed for me. The second year, I didn't even bother reminding them. I thought maybe if I pretended it didn't matter, it wouldn't hurt so much. But the silence in that house had a way of making even the strongest heart feel disposable. By 16, I was invisible, the family background character. The one who helped clean after everyone else's celebrations, but never had one of her own. I learned to smile in group photos, to nod when Mom bragged about my brother's scholarships, and to stay quiet when she said, "Oh, Addison's doing fine, I think." But I wasn't fine. I was angry. Angry at being forgotten. Angry that love had conditions. Angry that being quiet made me disappear. There was one person who saw me, my grandmother, Evelyn. She lived 2 towns over and called me every Sunday. On my 17th birthday, she handed me a small velvet box. Inside was a silver locket shaped like a teardrop. "Remember this," she said, clasping it around my neck. "People forget dates, not hearts. Make yours unforgettable." The next morning she was gone. Heart failure, they said. Quick. Peaceful. But nothing about it felt peaceful to me. That was the year I stopped asking for anything. I got a part-time job at a diner, saved every tip, and applied for a scholarship without telling anyone. The day the acceptance letter came, I packed a single suitcase, tucked Grandma's locket under my shirt, and left a note on the kitchen counter. "You don't have to remember me. I'll make sure the world does." I walked out before the sun came up. No one stopped me. No one called after me. Just the hum of the refrigerator and the sound of my own heartbeat echoing in my ears. For the first time, the silence didn't hurt. It promised freedom. I arrived in Chicago with one suitcase, $312, and a locket that felt heavier than it should have. The city didn't know my name, and that was perfect. It meant I could become anyone. My first job was at a coffee shop near Michigan Avenue. I worked the early shift, the one nobody wanted. I scrubbed tables, smiled through exhaustion, and saved every dollar I could. Between shifts, I'd sit by the window, laptop open, sketching ideas for what would later become my company. Though at the time, it was just a dream called Brightline Media. I wanted to tell stories that mattered. Stories about people like me, unseen, overlooked, underestimated. It was there I met Lena Parker, a regular customer with a voice that filled the cafe like jazz. She was the creative director of a boutique ad firm, and one morning, after watching me sketch for weeks, she said, "You've got an eye for truth, kid. Come work for me." That one sentence changed everything. Lena taught me how to pitch, how to fight for ideas in boardrooms full of men who thought confidence was a synonym for arrogance. She taught me that silence could be power if you used it right. There were nights I'd work until dawn, surviving on vending machine coffee and drive-through fries. But each campaign, Each client, each small win became another brick in the foundation I was building, a life that was mine alone. My first major success came 3 years later. A national cosmetics brand hired me to lead a campaign centered on authenticity, real women, real stories, no filters. It went viral. I still remember standing in Times Square, watching one of my ads flash across a digital billboard. My name was in the corner, Creative Director, Addison Reed. I didn't cry. I just whispered, "You see me now, Grandma?" Over the next few years, Brightline Media became a reality. I left Lena's firm with her blessing and built my own company from a rented basement office with 2 interns and a secondhand printer. We worked out of cardboard boxes, fueled by cheap pizza and wild ambition. The first year, we made enough to survive. The second, we started getting noticed. By the fifth, Brightline had clients in 12 states and partnerships with major nonprofits. I was featured in Forbes 30 Under 30, though my family never knew. I had blocked them on social media long before. If anyone from Brookvale asked about me, my mother would say, "Addison's doing marketing somewhere in Chicago." And I'd let her believe that. It was easier, safer, because success feels different when no one expected you to have it. It's quieter, sharper, like holding a secret that could change everything, but choosing when to speak it aloud. And tonight, on my birthday, that secret was about to become the town's favorite story. By the time the sun dipped behind the hills, Brookvale was glowing with string lights and gossip. The annual Harvest Gala, my gala, was being held at the renovated town hall, now draped in gold and ivory. It was the first time the event had drawn guests from across the state. Politicians, philanthropists, local business owners, everyone wanted to be seen. And for the first time in years, so did my family. I watched them arrive through the tall glass doors as my assistant, Kara, adjusted my diamond bracelet. "You okay?" she asked softly. I smiled. "Perfect." Mom entered first, her hair styled just like always, the same pale pink lipstick she'd worn since forever. Dad followed, uncomfortable in a tuxedo that probably hadn't seen daylight since a wedding. My brothers came next, one holding his wife's hand, the other scrolling through his phone, oblivious. They looked around the grand hall like tourists. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead, violins filled the air, and every table was marked with the Brightline Media logo. When their eyes found me at the center of the room, in a floor-length emerald gown, microphone in hand, I saw it. Recognition. Then disbelief. "Good evening, everyone," I began, my voice steady but warm. "Thank you for coming to celebrate a cause that means everything to me, second chances and unseen voices." I saw Mom's jaw tighten. She wasn't used to hearing me command a room. The night flowed smoothly, speeches, laughter, champagne flutes clinking. Then came the moment. The video presentation. The lights dimmed, and the screen lit up with a reel, a girl sitting alone at a kitchen table, blowing out the candle on a single cupcake. Then a young woman working nights, sketching dreams. Then the same woman, older, stronger, building something extraordinary. The narration was my own voice. When you grow up unseen, you learn to shine without permission. The final frame appeared, Brightline Media, founded by Addison Reed. Applause erupted. Cameras flashed. But my eyes were on my family, frozen, wide-eyed, realizing the girl they'd forgotten had become the woman everyone now celebrated. After the applause faded, I stepped down from the stage and crossed the marble floor toward them. The crowd parted quietly. Mom was the first to speak. "Addie, why didn't you tell us?" I tilted my head, a polite smile tugging at my lips. "Would you have listened?" Her lips parted, but no words came out. Dad cleared his throat. "We're proud of you, sweetheart. Truly. We just didn't know." I nodded. "No, you didn't. But that's okay. You weren't supposed to." My brothers looked uneasy, like they wanted to vanish into their suits. I gestured toward the portraits along the hall. Women from the shelters my foundation funded, survivors, artists, single mothers. These are the people who reminded me that being forgotten doesn't mean being gone. It just means you're building in silence. Mom blinked back tears. "Addison, please can we talk? As a family?" I let the silence hang for a moment, long enough for the hum of violins to fill the space again. Then I said softly, "We'll talk. But not tonight. Tonight's for the ones who showed up." As I turned back toward the stage, applause rose again, for the keynote, for the cause, for the story the town would never forget. Behind me, I felt their eyes following, filled with a mixture of awe and regret. And for the first time in my life, I didn't shrink under their gaze. I owned it. The gala ended just after midnight. Most of the guests had drifted into the cool night air, laughter echoing down Main Street. Only a few of us remained inside the hall. The cleanup crew, Kara, and my family, who lingered near the buffet like they weren't sure if they were still invited to stand there. I motioned for Kara to give us a moment. She nodded and slipped away. For a long minute, no one spoke. The chandeliers hummed faintly, and outside, the crickets carried on like nothing monumental had happened. Mom was the first to break the silence. "Addison, please, we didn't know you were doing all this." I raised a hand gently. "Mom, I'm not angry. Not anymore." She looked surprised. "You're not?" I smiled faintly. "No. I was angry for years. Now I'm just aware." Dad stepped forward. "We want to make it right. Whatever we have to do." I met his eyes, calm, unshaken. "Then start by remembering the people you forgot. Not just me. There are others who feel invisible in this town. That's why I built Brightline, so no one else grows up thinking silence is love." My brothers shifted uncomfortably. "Addie," one of them said, "you've really changed." "I had to," I replied. "You can't stay small in the same house that taught you to disappear." Mom started to cry softly. "We just want to be a part of your life again." I walked to the long banquet table, picked up a folded envelope, and handed it to her. "You will be if you want to earn that." Inside was a foundation contract, volunteer positions, mentorship roles, and commitments to the town's outreach program. She blinked. "You want us to work?" "Yes," I said, voice steady. "Every Saturday. No cameras. No shortcuts. I don't need apologies, I need effort." Dad looked at the paper, then at me. "And if we can't?" "Then nothing changes," I said simply. "You'll keep living your lives, and I'll keep living mine. But at least we'll both be honest about it." There was no bitterness in my tone, just truth. For the first time, they seemed to see me not as their daughter, but as a woman who had rebuilt herself from the ashes they left behind. Mom wiped her tears and whispered, "We'll do it. I promise." I believed her, not because her voice was steady, but because it trembled. I smiled just a little. "Good. Because next year, we're expanding the foundation. And you're going to help make that happen. Together." Dad nodded, silent but resolute. My brothers said nothing, but their faces softened. Pride, maybe, or guilt. It didn't matter which. The shift had already happened. They were no longer the ones defining me. I was defining them. The following months felt quieter, not empty, but settled, like the calm after a long, necessary storm. Every Saturday, my parents showed up. At first, they stood awkwardly beside volunteers at the women's shelter, unsure where to start. Mom wore pearls on the first day, thinking it was a charity luncheon. By week 3, she traded them for sneakers and a ponytail. Dad learned how to serve food without flinching at the smell of industrial kitchens. And my brothers, to everyone's surprise, stayed too. One taught computer skills to teens, the other helped paint the new community center mural. It wasn't perfection, but it was something real. Effort. Change. Sometimes I'd catch them glancing my way, as if still trying to reconcile the daughter they dismissed with the woman they now worked beside. I never said much. I didn't need to. The work spoke for itself. One afternoon, as we packed donated clothes into bins, Mom slipped something into my hand, a small velvet pouch. Inside was my grandmother's locket, newly polished, its silver gleaming like moonlight. "I found it in your old room," she said softly. "Thought maybe you'd want it back." I smiled, running my thumb over the familiar curve. "I never lost it," I whispered. "I just stopped waiting for someone else to open it." She nodded, tears shining but unfallen. You remind me of her, you know. Strong. Stubborn. I learned from the best. That night, I stood outside the center as the sun melted into gold over Brookvale. The town that once ignored me now carried my name on banners, murals, and hearts. But that wasn't the victory. The real victory was peace, knowing I didn't need their validation to be whole. I looked at the locket one last time before clasping it around my neck. Inside was the same tiny note my grandmother had left years ago, the one I never read aloud. Make them remember, but never forget yourself. I smiled, closing it gently. The wind picked up, carrying laughter from the center, Mom's voice among them. I turned toward the sound, my heels clicking against the sidewalk, steady and sure. For years, they forgot my birthday. But this year, the whole town remembered my story. And for once, it wasn't out of guilt or pity. It was because I'd written it myself.